With some of the issues that you have already heard us raise this morning, killings here and there, attacks here and there, added to the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, one wonders exactly what the significance of all of this is, particularly as we build up to the general elections. Scattered issues or connected issues. Colonel Hassan Stanlabo joins us this morning. He is a former Army officer. Thanks for joining us this morning.
I appreciate it.
I don't know how to greet you Happy Remembrance, the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, but I think that is something in order.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
All right. Why not?
Do you think the leaders across board, all levels in the country, do you think the reality of the significance of the Armed Forces Remembrance Day hits us well from time to time, especially when we commemorate it?
If I'm to give you an untainted response, I would say, frankly speaking, our leaders don't really care about it. We don't really feel or take serious the fact that some guys laid down their lives for us to be where we are today. I say this from a point of knowledge, having been able to be quite close to some leaders by virtue of some little appointments I had while in the military. It should take a while for us to emulate what goes on in the Western world and be able to show enough appreciation to our veterans community.
But it's been so many years. I mean, this whole thing started, I think, in 69, 70. I don't know what year particularly. I don't remember particularly what year we started using the Armed Forces Remembrance Day commemorating the day on January 15. But it's been quite a number of years since that time.
Yeah,
and
that's all right.
for you to say that the political leaders don't care.
Yeah, it's still more of lip service. It's still more of,
so it's routine.
Yes. 15 January, okay. There's going to be a parade, release of boats, okay, fine.
What would you have expected that would happen before or in the build-up to the day?
Less of the ceremonies and actual attention to the welfare of those who are still alive, and for those who are dead, their families who are left behind, their children, their wives, and so on.
You don't think that's been done at all?
That's why I say less of the ceremonies. All emphasis is on the ceremony. If you are a stranger to Nigeria and you watch the ceremony, you say, oh, this country really takes care of its veterans. Where do I start from? Is it healthcare or what? You know, you could just go and count it. As an officer, excuse me, sorry. As an officer, I know how much I spend on my healthcare. Because, I mean, after having been to 4 international operations, definitely you come out to some ailments. Who cares, really? Somebody will say, oh, no, look, but to have a defense, this national, what do you call this, healthcare arrangement. We have a defense healthcare scheme, this, that, and that. Yes. How well funded is the defense welfare scheme? As we speak, how much attention is paid to people who have issues that have got to do with their organs? Liver, heart, mentioning the internal organs, where we really have major problems, and which in most cases is with senior citizens. The drugs for all this are so expensive that they are hardly on the shelf of military pharmacies in military hospitals. Because they'll tell you, no, you see, we cannot spend this much money on just 5 or 10 people in this hospital who have such ailment. This money can cater for nearly half of the people and so on. If you say there is health care, if you're talking about malaria, fever, and headaches, yes, the military is really taking care of. How many veterans on dialysis is the military picking their bills? or let me say the government, let me not keep hammering on the military. How many? These are areas where you have capital-intensive expenditure that eats deep into the guy's pension.
But,
what about healthcare for those still serving? If expensive healthcare is not covered for retired, what about those still serving? Is it covered somewhat in their package? What can you tell us about that?
Yes, my dear, and I will explain it this way. While I was still serving, I never thought I ever had a health issue. Because, I mean, what issue would I have? Is it not the normal headache and malaria and so on? How many times do I go to the military hospital? It is when maybe you are taking care of your kids and so on, and in most cases, we as officers, you just register with the nearest good hospital within your environment, and once in a while, madam goes there for one thing or the other because of the children. How many of us in our 30s, 40s actually feel sick enough? You begin to patronize military healthcare seriously on retirement when you begin to see how much you are beginning to spend on drugs, and you say, but I think there's an arrangement like this, and you try to, explore the opportunities in such arrangement, only to discover, no, it's not what you think it is.
my apologies, Colonel. I like that Bukola brought in the perspective of not just those who have passed,
yes,
but those who are still active now.
Correct.
How significantly do you think that plays on their performance on the job? Because, I mean, looking at the front pages of the papers, and something that my colleague Markwell referenced the other time, of us using the police, pick up on military officers, soldiers, as policemen on the streets. So one wonders, how do you think what you've been saying plays on the psyche and the performance of the officers on the field?
If there is anything I would say that goes on right now in the field, is the fact that those who are still serving are actually looking at what we are going through and trying to see how they can prepare themselves for it. They'll tell you, forget all the rhetorics you read about, oh no, look, forget all those paperworks. We've written some of those write-ups to be read by big men on the, so it's not really a big deal. The reality is, how much preparation are you putting in towards your retirement, which probably is going in the next 4 years, 5 years, or 6 years?
So you think that what you're saying now, essentially you're saying that the soldiers may not put in all of their best if they are not certain of what the retirement, their retirement looks like?
I wouldn't say they will not put in all their best, because I keep falling back to in my own case, I was so consumed by my job. I enjoyed doing my job, such as even when I look at people within my constituency who are now out of the job and who are suffering one way or the other, before you know what, I had gotten so much consumed again by the job. And I played my role very well, just I want to believe the same way a good number of soldiers out there are doing. But the fact remains that, and in most cases, it's your wife that always reminds you.
Speaking of preparation, Colonel Stanlabo, from time to time, we see that the military inaugurates housing schemes for officers. We've seen some of that in certain parts of Lagos in the recent past. We've seen in the northwest of the country in recent times as well. How much of a commonwealth is that for men of the service, to the extent that when they exit the armed forces, they can come away with, an accommodation as evidence of having served, committed their life to the force?
Yes, sure. In that aspect, I would say the military is trying, but they could do better. Why am I saying they could do better? The house I own right now in Abuja is from one of these schemes. Okay? Even though, of course, I did some improvements to bring it up to my taste. But I would say I got that house through the military. And I'm really so happy about that. But as I was retiring, I still had a few millions more to pay. You pay on these things instrumentally. As at the point of retirement, I still had a few millions more to pay. When you deduct that from whatever my gratuity was, it was a huge chunk. That's why I'm saying they could still do better. And if you want to ask me, I would say, look, some level of percentage could be taken off, especially at that point where the guy is now retiring. We look at what is left for him to pay and say, well, statutorily, we take off 25%. Statutorily, we take off 40% of whatever is left. So that the guy now pays, instead of 4 or 5 million, he now sees himself paying 2 or 1 million.
But is it selective? Because we see that some retired military officers are languishing in poverty. They have not gotten their retirement benefits. How much more to talk about accommodation? So how does it go round?
What goes around? The housing thing?
Yeah, the housing scheme.
It's optional, mind you, my dear. It's optional. The scheme is here.
Okay.
Pick up the forms if you're interested. Fill it out. You get a slot. You go, you pick where you want your house to be, wherever you want to stay, whether it's Ibadan, Lagos, or where. You pick. And then eventually, you are paying gradually, and your house is being prepared for you. It's optional. Some people might have already had their own private plans, and so they are not ready to commit whatever their resources coming in from the military.
But then is it made of affordable for you, based on, how do I describe it now?
Based on my earnings?
Yeah, based on, your service, your commitment, and your diligence throughout the service.
That's why I have said it could be better. They could improve on the conditions. To me, I still think it is too high.
Just one other thing that we want to be much better before I bring in my colleagues from Abuja is the insecurity or security situation. I really don't, I wish we didn't have to talk about it, but it's the reality that we have to face every day. On the front pages of the dailies, you find gunmen do this, bandits do that, and there was an attack in Imo and all those things. So one is wondering, do you think we are asking the right questions or taking on the right issues with the right set of people as far as these issues, like these pockets of issues, but most certainly chagrin at the same time?
I don't know where to start in answering that. I'm always noted for placing the blame on the doorstep of the government. But in most cases, we have no option but to do that. Well, all I would just say in summary is that if there's anything we've got to do, the earlier we start it, the better. If there is any rejig that needs to be done again, the earlier we start it, the better. More so that we're barely less than 40 days to the elections, fast coming now. And the security situation calls for some attention, going by what's happening in the last 1 or 2 weeks, and so on. I think the defense is very much conscious of the fact, the defense headquarters is conscious of the fact that they need to really buckle up.
One of the most disturbing, if I can put it that way, is the fact that there are some of these things that seemed that they were going to happen and we were duly notified. For instance, the case of the representative in Imo State. December last year, there was that notice that they put out saying, look, there is this thought in some quarters that this fellow was going to be attacked. And then we hear that that same attack took place over the weekend. And in the letter they put out initially, they had petitioned, I think it was the IG, saying, look, there's a fellow who made this public declaration in public, and everyone knew about it. And it would seem like nothing was done about it. As a matter of fact, one of the things that these CUPP and the rest of them said was, look, we expected that this fellow would have been picked up, no arrest had been made, and all of that. So one wonders exactly who should be answering what questions, because this is one, and as you said, we're building up to the elections. Whether it is politically motivated or not, it is a case of insecurity, and it is something that the security officers should take charge of.
In matters of this sort, the police is a lead agency, and I expect that the IG should feel very concerned when it comes to matters as this, more so when somebody came out to make a public pronouncement. Like a good number of colleagues of mine would say, we expected such a guy to have been picked up, interrogated, and so on. But you just left him to carry on with his impunity, and here we are. And of course, like you know, looking 8 years back, I say 8 years because I believe the administration is already winding up. That has always been the nature of this administration. I'm sorry to say, nothing is taken serious. There's this lackadaisical attitude towards anything, whether it borders on security, the economy, or what have you, and so on. You advise, nobody takes to it. In fact, nobody even acknowledges your letters when you send it, carrying advice to certain offices and so on. The whole place is just so relaxed. It's like nobody is actually in control, and so on. So things like this, I expected the Inspector General of Police to be tapping on someone and said, hope you heard that. Merely saying that the fellow knows what to do. This is an administration where nobody checks anybody. We came in to fight corruption. We are even more corrupt than those who came to fight. All sorts of funny things happen. It has gotten to a point that you no longer blame the government. You only pray for them to live successfully and let somebody else come in. We are fed up as citizens. We are tired. We brought in people to administer us. They are lacking in competence, lacking in character, lacking in capacity, everything. Oil, which is the main source of our income, is now being stolen by the same people who are supposed to be custodians. What do you want us to do? Where do you start from? They own all the instruments of coercion which they could bring to bear on the situation. Yet, here we are.
I hope that's not saying that we're hopeless. Markway and Chamberlain.
Well, Colonel, you know, lots of people listening to you, mixed emotions, different perspectives. I mean, you've been there, you've been in service, so you understand what it takes to defend the territorial integrity of the country. And I mean, those days, I mean, any service person wouldn't see these kind of things, and if they are called to action, they will automatically just go there and address it. Such is the mindset. But looking at all of these things, with the experience that several service people have, because we have a lot of them in, you know, putting on the quote-unquote democratic garb now. So what do you think really is the missing link here? Because if they had all that capacity, why don't we see them being deployed? Or as some people may think, is there something being orchestrated somewhere? Are people just watching and waiting to let certain things happen? Because for many people, these things just don't add up the way they keep happening, because people know what's going to happen. And it appears as if we just let it happen.
Whole thing, where is the problem coming from? First and foremost, I'll see the problem as a leadership problem. Leadership in that is to say, no one seems to be taking control, and no one probably takes ownership of the situation on ground. Simple, and that is the way I see it. Otherwise, when there are issues as this, relevant departments are supposed to, you know, even be moved by virtue of the fact that, you know, the boss up there is watching. And it's a boss who watches keenly and takes note. Unfortunately, we don't find such a situation here. So you find departmental heads, or yes, MDAs, ministries, departments, and agencies, just doing whatever they feel like doing, and nobody gives a damn, and nothing happens anyway. Nothing happens. No sanctions, nothing. This is the best administration to work in and work out freely with whatever you want to do. Whether you're carrying billions or doing whatever, you will go scot-free without anything. So in a nutshell, I place the problem, I source the whole issue or the whole problem coming from the absence of leadership. We don't have that firm hand that can really come out and be able to take charge of responsibilities. And neither have we properly, has that leadership, which is absent up there, neither has it been able to delegate powers to subordinates, serious-minded subordinates who can take charge. We just find pockets of, you know, effectiveness. In the custom, we have good leadership. NDLEA, you have good leadership, and so on, just pockets. Nothing is happening in this administration, I'm sorry to say.
Even though they will always tell you that they think several things are happening in different areas, but a few question marks in some other areas. But do you see a role for citizens in this regard?
Yes, of course, as citizens, we're expected to play our role. And it borders in most cases in we accepting that, look, we are stakeholders to whatever is happening, and we must be able to see that we make some contributions and see how we bring about a better Nigeria. So we'll go about playing whatever role we think we can play. See something, say something, and so on. But in most cases, when you see and say, and nothing follows up, it becomes so discouraging. So discouraging, my brother, okay? Nothing follows up. I don't want to start citing example with the situation where I come from in southern Kaduna and all what we are suffering. It has gotten to a point where you begin to read government, what's it called now, connivance in the whole damn thing that's happening, okay? You begin to wonder, am I sure those who should be taking care of me, protecting my welfare on ground, are themselves not part of what is happening? I hope you know that as a government, when you turn your face away from what is happening, that alone in itself connotes some level of connivance, okay? There is some level of complicity. That is it. We bury in southern Kaduna nearly every day. It's no big story anymore. We bury nearly every day. You could find out from anyone. Like Obi said, go verify it.
Well, speaking about that, I mean, since you're going that way, one of the major ways that the citizens have to, quote unquote, address the challenge or do something they feel they can address it is through the ballot boxes. Now that we're approaching elections, and then INEC has introduced several, the beavers and all of those scenarios, and then we've seen an increase in people who expressed willingness to go in and participate and get their votes count. Are you optimistic this time, probably, if people do go out there, or whatever decision they take, who knows, things may just change for the better?
Yes, things may. I'm very optimistic about my country, despite whatever my ill feelings about what's happening, all right? And I have this belief that Nigeria is going to be great some other day again. If I may just add this, every Nigerian, every citizen out there who sees himself as a stakeholder should ensure by now that you have a PVC to effect the change we need. 2, you must know who actually you are voting for. Gone are the days of tribalism, gone are the days of religion. Nigeria is so sick and at the brink of collapse to a point that we just need somebody that can save us. We don't want to know where he's from anymore. However, like I keep saying about the situation in southern Kaduna, and which I think reflects in some other parts of the country, we begin to see whereby authorities are themselves trying to be stumbling block on the part of the citizen to be able to exercise his franchise. And how do I mean? The sporadic attacks we have ongoing in parts of the country, specifically southern Kaduna, is clearly indicative of the fact that there is a government input to it, be it at the subnational level, be it at the national level. There is a deliberate attempt to ensure that the people do not come out on 25th of February and be able to elect a government that is interested in protecting them. The status quo, which these guys in power in the state are deliberately wanting to maintain, is creating so much problems that today we continue to bury on a daily basis in southern Kaduna.
Well, Colonel, you must admit that these are very, grievous allegations, and we hope that the Kaduna State government will respond. Not just the Kaduna State government, but also those who hold the levers of security, because the governor always says, you know, I'm the chief security officer, but security is usually something that is, you know, commanded from the Federal Capital Territory. So let us hope that there will be some response
I pray so.
to how you feel about this, and not just in terms of refuting, but also in terms of, you know, deploying security personnel to ensure that, you know, things normalize and people are able to vote, especially in southern Kaduna. That said, I'd like to go back a little to the situation of the Armed Forces Remembrance Day. And one of the things that, you know, struck me about the report which our correspondent, Gloria, put together is, you know, one of the widows there saying that, you know, it used to take a shorter time to process the benefits of those who have fallen, but that now it's taking much longer. Are you aware of any challenges that could be making this process a little longer? Because even as at this time last year, when we asked the Chief of Defense Staff, he said, oh, it used to be something that was a problem, but that they've since taken care of that. We're wondering whether this is something that is a new development or something that was, you know, that has been, you know, what exactly influences the different time frames that family members of those who have fallen experience in being able to get the benefits that is due them?
Thank you, Maokwe. As a matter of fact, I really cannot say, but I know those women are being factual by what they say, because I am aware of several family members like that who feel so frustrated with the situation. Okay? I think some bureaucracy needs to be backpedaled and allow this thing to move at a faster pace. We are not even talking of what is the amount involved now. Because at the end of the day, frankly, Maokwe, when you look at what we are talking about, it's just sheer peanuts. Peanuts. And at times you even ask yourself, is this amount really worth all these pains? But that is the provision, statutorily. That is the provision. So there is even the need to revisit these amounts. The last time it was revisited, as far as I'm concerned, it was mere cosmetic. All right? Because when you know these are statutory matters, they are not issues which can be revisited every year. So when you are trying to, revisit it with the intent to increase, you do it at a level that it will, when it takes the next 5-10 years again before that, before it calls for another revisit, at least this amount of money will be able to cater for people. The amount is so insignificant, so that those of them who are even, I would say, blessed to come from families that are well economically endowed, just abandon the thing and go about their business. This shouldn't be the case. It shouldn't be. It really shouldn't be. When we are talking about offsprings or siblings of veterans, I think we should show more care. More care. We are not showing enough care as a nation. We are not being appreciative enough of the role their husbands or their fathers played. No. I, as a living veteran...
Are you bothered about the let's say, the lack of understanding, or the fact that oftentimes when the Armed Forces Day, Armed Forces Remembrance Day, or the poppy, or the emblem, beg your pardon, because we don't use a poppy anymore, we use the emblem when it is launched, that it's only at a certain level we see this emblem. It doesn't look like there is a general understanding, or even, let's say, an acceptance on the part of the Nigerian people of what exactly this emblem stands for, and, well, I say, the need to wear it, perhaps in show of support, for at least for what it stands for. Is this something that bothers you as an ex-serviceman?
I must make this confession, that look, the average veteran out there is not happy with the Nigerian state. I repeat, the average veteran out there is not happy with the Nigerian state. He does not feel appreciated enough. Look at the security department allowance, which created so much noise and so on, which they have just commenced payment. You wish to see what is being paid to veterans. you will nearly ask, is this what all the noise has been about? If you are supposed to pay somebody a debarment allowance at the point of his exit from service, and you did not pay him, and the fellow we are talking about now exited maybe 35 years ago, when 5,000 Nigerian naira can buy you a brand new Peugeot car. Some of us are aware of all this. I think we were still alive then. Today, you want to calculate the man's debarment allowance based on 10% of what he was earning 35 years ago. What will 10% of that amount give you? Some of them are going home with 100,000, some less than 100,000. I'm telling you, we expect a situation where to make amends, you say, okay, let's use the current pay schedule. You left service as a sergeant. What is a sergeant earning today? You calculate based on that 10% of today, not 35 years ago. Why should we just sit down and become so inhuman to fellow mankind? Somebody should have thought. I said, no, we've got to amend this. So that is what these chaps have been paid. And it's unfortunate. Those who are smiling home now are those who are retiring now in the last 2, 3, 4 years. Yes, you are really taking something reasonable. But those who trained you while you are coming in are weeping and wondering whether are we in the same military? That shouldn't be. Somebody somewhere should be hearing what I'm saying and take some line of action. But in this administration, nobody takes such actions. If you say this in some national television, definitely they will look into it. But here, nobody looks into it. Nobody gives a damn about you. Whether you feel appreciated or not, nobody gives a hoot.
With you raising these issues now, let's just hope that things will be different. Bukola.
This is Nigeria, forget it.
Very quickly, I appreciate your concern, Colonel Stanlabo, particularly when you talk about, some other issues that, as Malcolm has rightly put, should be giving attention to either by way of refutal or by deployment of security. This brings me to the Southeast. Very quickly, Colonel Stanlabo, I'd like you to look at the Southeast critically in view of, what transpired early on at this administration when they reined in on, some form of internal insurrection that took the form of agitation for self-determination. Indeed, what is happening now is being said to have political undertones. But don't you think it has gotten to the level where, there is it should require some form of deployment of the military, to restore the peace that the Southeast is known for? Or do you see at the same stand back and let the Southeast boil, just so that it can amount to some political gains of some powers?
Thank you, Malcolm. The issue... oh, sorry, my dear. Okay. Thank you, Busola. The issue of the South is something that really touches me deep. Because I'm one of those few Nigerians who believe that since after the Civil War, we have not taken all the right steps to ensure that the family is back again. I'm referring to the Nigerian family. Good. The situation in the Southeast has aggravated to this level because of insensitivity of leadership. It has aggravated to this level because you have a leadership that looks only onto kinetic solutions to issues. If you ask me, I'll tell you the problem in Southeast is more or less political, not in terms of partisan politics. Political in the sense that, look, Mr. President, you are the father of all. Can you just gather the family together and ask those who feel aggrieved, what is your problem? All this IPOP or what have you, frankly speaking, oh, Jesus. These problems can be addressed. If you listen to Peter Obi when he talks about the issue of the Southeast, he tells you I will address that issue. All it costs is for me to sit and discuss with them. As a president from your high top mountain, you come down low, sit down, talk with IPOP, with the ENS, invite them over to the villa. Jesus Christ.
The question then is...
Give us 1 week.
Well, the question then, Gordon,
Yes.
will be how sustainable that will be, given that, I mean, in the amnesty program of the previous administration, the Yaradua administration, took care of the problem, but it didn't completely eradicate the problem because the challenges of poverty and all of those things, the oil spill and the rest of them, they still exist in the environment. So having that conversation, having concessions, so to speak, for the Southeast, the agitators within Southeast, who are, as some people avow, are making life difficult for fellow Southeasterners. How do you see that really playing out? You have 30 seconds.
Some of the solutions that have come out so far, even plus the one you're referring to me have been mere palliatives.
Oh.
Yes, we could go far deeper than that. The Southeast issue calls for some restructuring. Can we just be serious with ourselves here? If we intend to better this country, we know what to do. We should stop playing all this pretense.
Well, let's just hope then that...
We should stop playing
I
all
mean,
this
I think you've
pretense.
given us one counsel, that is, we have to employ the right people in the right
That's
positions
it.
so that they can do some of those things that we expect them
Yes,
to
I
do.
will.
This is an ongoing conversation, always an ongoing conversation.
Always.
Colonel Hassan Stanlabo, former Army officer, thank you so much for your time and perspectives.
I appreciate it, please. Thank you so much.
There's more after this break. Please stay with us.